The morning the forest fell silent. The sun had barely risen above the pine-covered mountains of a small valley town when Marcus and Daniel both grabbed their axes and headed into the forest. They had been woodcutters for nearly a decade, friends since childhood, rivals since they could hold a blade. Every morning, before the birds had finished their first song, both men were already deep among the trees, breathing in the cold, pine-sharp air, ready to outwork each other. Marcus was the stronger of the two. His shoulders were broad as a barn door, his hands calloused and iron hard. He swung his axe with a fury that made younger men stop and stare. From dawn to dusk, he chopped without rest, not for a drink of water, not for a moment of shade. He believed, with every drop of his sweat, that the man who works the longest wins. Daniel was different. He was lean, quieter, with the kind of eyes that seemed to be always thinking. He swung just as hard, but every single hour, without fail, he sat down for exactly 10 minutes. He leaned against a tree, drank some water, caught his breath, and then, almost silently, did something strange. He sharpened his axe. The longest day. By noon, Marcus had not stopped once. His shirt was drenched, his arms burned, and his lungs heaved like a blacksmith's bellows. He glanced over at Daniel and felt a sharp surge of pride. He had clearly cut more trees. He wiped his face with his sleeve and swung again, harder. Marcus, you keep sitting down, Daniel. No wonder I'm ahead. A man who rests is a man who loses. Daniel, I'm not just resting, Marcus. I'm sharpening. Marcus, sharpening won't put food on the table. Ours will. Daniel said nothing more. He simply stood, picked up his axe, blade gleaming in the midday sun, and walked back to his tree. By 3 in the afternoon, something shifted. Marcus began to notice that his axe was no longer biting clean. Each swing felt heavier, the blade glancing off the bark instead of sinking through it. He was working twice as hard to cut half as much. His body ached in places he had never felt before. Still, he told himself, push through. Strength is everything. Daniel, meanwhile, had found a quiet rhythm. His axe fell with a clean, precise sound, one firm stroke, then another. Where Marcus now needed 4 swings to fell a medium pine, Daniel needed 2. His movements were measured, almost graceful, like a man who had found the exact language the forest spoke. The count at sunset. When the sun finally dipped behind the mountains and the sky turned the color of amber and rose, both men drove their axes into the last stump of the day and walked to the clearing to count their logs. The town's timber merchant, old Mr. Henley, sat on his wagon with his ledger open, his spectacles perched on the end of his nose. Marcus crossed his arms and waited, confident. He had worked 12 straight hours, not a single break, not a single pause. Surely the numbers would show it. But when Mr. Henley read the final count aloud, a stunned silence fell over the clearing like the first snow of winter. Mr. Henley, Daniel, 42 trees. Marcus, 29 trees. Marcus stood very still. He looked at his hands, cracked, bleeding, trembling, and then looked at Daniel, who was quietly loading his logs, unhurried. Marcus. How? I never stopped. Not once. You sat down every single hour. How did you cut more? Daniel set down a log and turned to face his old friend. There was no pride in his eyes, only something quiet and certain, the kind of knowledge that comes not from books, but from years of paying attention. Daniel, Marcus, a dull axe needs 10 times the effort to do half the work. Every hour I sat down, I sharpened my blade. I wasn't resting from the work, I was preparing for it. You worked hard all day. I worked smart. Marcus stared at him for a long moment. Then he looked down at his axe. The blade was almost completely worn. the edge ragged and grey. He had been hacking at trees with a blunt tool for hours, burning his body like fuel in an engine that was going nowhere fast. That evening, Marcus sat alone by the fire for a long time. He wasn't angry. He was thinking, perhaps for the first time in years, about the difference between movement and progress, between effort and result. He had confused exhaustion with achievement. He had worn his body down like a blunt blade and called it strength. Part 2, the motivational lesson. What the forest teaches us. This story is not just about two woodcutters in a mountain valley. It is about every student who studies for hours but never reviews what they've learned. It is about every entrepreneur who stays busy from morning to night but never pauses to ask, is this the right direction? It is about every person who confuses being tired with being productive. Working smart does not mean working less. Daniel did not take easy shortcuts. He swung his axe just as hard as Marcus, but he understood something Marcus did not. The tool matters as much as the hand that holds it, and sometimes the wisest thing you can do in the middle of hard work is to stop and sharpen. 3 lessons to carry with you. 1. Pause to sharpen. The breaks you take are not stolen time, they are investments. A 10-minute pause to review your strategy, rest your mind, or realign your focus can save you hours of misdirected effort. The world's most effective people are not those who work the most hours. They are those who use their hours most wisely. 2. Effort without direction is just exhaustion. Marcus was not lazy. He was brave and strong and willing. But bravery without strategy is like running full speed in the wrong direction. Ask yourself regularly, am I doing the right things or just doing things? Am I getting closer to my goal or just getting tired? 3. Your tools are everything. Your axe is your skill, your knowledge, your mindset. Keep it sharp. Read, learn, reflect, seek feedback. A person who invests in growing their abilities will always outperform someone who simply doubles down on raw effort alone. Never stop sharpening who you are. The morning after. The next morning, Marcus arrived at the forest before Daniel. He set down his bag, pulled out a whetstone, and sat quietly in the cool morning light. When Daniel arrived and saw his old friend sitting there, blade against stone, long, careful strokes, he smiled without saying a word. They worked side by side that day, and for the first time in 10 years, both men came home having given their best, not just their most. Hard work will always be honorable, but the greatest workers in the world understand one simple truth. It is not the hours you put in, but what you put into the hours. Work with your full heart and with a sharp axe. Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the